For me, it was beer cans. And it sounds flippant, but it's not. I was in a particular parish, and it wasn't great, and there was all kinds of problems there, and most of the congregation had fell out with each other. Well, that's our usual problem. So half had left and half had stayed, and the half that stayed you wished had left and the other half had stayed. And, you know, there's all that kind of thing going on, and we're in debt. And I had a phone call. And this woman said to me, when are you going to come and tidy up this graveyard? I thought, oh, here we go. And I said, what's up with the graveyard? She said, there's a load of beer cans here. Some kids have been drinking down the graveyard. They brought a shopping trolley full of beer, and then they've thrown the cans all round and left the shopping trolley there. So I said, I'll be down. I'll come and tidy it up. And I went down to the graveyard, and there was nothing there. So I thought, brilliant. She's beat me, and she's gone home. So I thought, great. So I went back home, easy job. Went back to the house. The phone rang again. She says, are you coming down to the graveyard or what? I said, I've just been down. There's no beer cans there. She says, well, where have you been? She says, because I'm looking out my window at them now. And I said, I've just been down the graveyard at St. James Church. She says, not that graveyard. She says, the other graveyard. I didn't know I had another graveyard. It's true. I had no idea I got another graveyard. I said, well, all right. I tried to sound like I didn't know I had another graveyard. Well, where are you then? What's your address? Rose Hill, she said. So I went to Rose Hill, and sure enough, there's a graveyard, and it's a bit of a field. It's sort of just off the centre of Holywell. And they took all the gravestones down some years ago. You know when they used to put them all the way around the edge of the graveyard? Don't do it anymore. They all shout at us for doing that now. So they cleared all these gravestones, and there were all the beer cans. And the shopping trolley still on its side. And this woman looking at me balefully out this window. But it was in that moment that somehow I'd turned up at the right place, at the right time, for God to actually get through to this thick skull. And I looked over the wall of that graveyard, and I thought, deeply within my heart, well, this is where the church should be. This is where we should be, in the middle of Holywell. And not on a ski slope on the outskirts of Holywell. If you had a pram, you could get down to the church, but you couldn't get back up with it unless you wanted a good push. Or if you got sticks, you got no chance, just roll down the hill, but we'll never get you back. And there was only 6 car parking spaces, and everybody hated each other anyway. We're all getting very testy with each other. And I thought, this is where we should be. But because I knew that it was a God moment, that suddenly I fell into the rhythm that God wanted for that life in Holywell, that I was able to go to people and say the most ridiculous thing when they were in debt. Do you think we should build another church back up in Holywell that people could actually get to? And nobody said no. And these few people that we got left, who were as skint as I was, said, yeah. And I went and saw an old lady called Molly Busher, and she was 92 then. And I went to see Molly Busher, and I said, Molly, what do you think? She's a godly person, saintly woman. I said, I'm thinking perhaps we should have a church back up at Rose Hill, at that graveyard I pretended I now knew all about. And there were tears coming in her eyes. And I said, are you all right? And she says, you're not joking with me, are you? And I said, I'm not joking with you, I'm just asking you. I said, I just feel that if we were there, instead of where we are, and we were able to build the kind of church that we ought to be, the kind of building that actually serves the community, that we might be in with a shout. And she said, you do know that I was the organist at that church, don't you? And then that was the second thing I didn't know that I just found out. And I said, what church? She said, the church that was on the grounds there. I was the organist. And she says, my children used to go to that church. And I said, I didn't know, Molly. I said, I'm not having you on. I said, that's what I think. And because we were in the right place at the right time, we saw God move in a miraculous way in Holywell. And the things that go on at that church now truly are miraculous. I'm so proud of Father Dominic, who's there now. You know, we built the church. And you go through all that angst of, you know, what it's like with projects and everything. Till in the end, we built a brand new church. You know, I couldn't stand the sight of it when I built it. But that's what God asked me to do. And we built a reasonable congregation. And I always wondered in the back of my mind, you know, we've done all right there. There are a lot more people going to church now, but it just didn't feel like it had fulfilled its purpose. Well, it's fulfilling its purpose now. And I know now in my heart why we built it. But it all began with beer cans. And it all began with me feeling I better go and tidy a churchyard up that I didn't even know I had. In a place where there was a church that I didn't even know had existed. Because I got into the right place at the right time.